So, welcome to our September webinar. We are very honored today to do this first webinar after the summer break, and we have some illustrious contributions to this webinar. Without further ado, we will show you a introductory video of our General Manager, Mr. Pinas, before we start with the webinar. Just an information beforehand, we will present the webinar, and towards the end, there will be plenty of time to ask questions. You have a question box and you have a chat box. So in this chat box, you can also chat with us, and we will then answer the questions towards the end of the webinar. The recording of this webinar will be available afterwards to all of you. So if anything is unclear, you can, of course, watch it again. You can also invite your colleagues and friends to watch it if you think they are interested in it. And also, of course, we will talk more about this. For any more complex questions, we will provide answers in writing also if you like. So there's plenty of ways to interact, and the things we cannot tackle in this webinar right now, we will handle them afterwards. So without further ado, I will give you the presentation of our General Manager, Mr. Pinas.
Welcome to our webinar. I'm happy to see that so many of you are participating. My name is Dirk Pinas, and I am the General Manager of ESPORG. Being the European Secure Parking Organization, I would like to stress that our #1 priority is safe and secure parking. Through the study we conducted in 2018, we are able to help establish a European parking standard in order to ensure safe and healthy conditions for drivers. We are dedicated to helping our members expand and upgrade their secure parking areas. We have recently had the outcome of the 2019 CEF call. 8 of the 11 projects that are receiving funding were under ESPORG's umbrella and will start building soon. Now, we want to ensure that everyone is on the same page with the practical implementation of the study on the standard, especially as we roll out the building of safe and secure parking areas. We want to guide you through the EU parking standard and everything that's connecting to it. Safe and secure parking, European legislation like the mobility package. Let us be your guide and help you understand and interpret these rules correctly so that you can implement them in a correct and concrete way. This is our first webinar, but is the first of many. We are lucky to rely on the good cooperation with the European Commission. You will hear and learn from Ines, who is Policy Officer at DG Move, what the mobility package is all about. So, let's get started.
Dirk was saying is that we, as ESPORG, are very honored today to organize this webinar. There is a lot of positive energy going around right now, with several projects having been approved also for funding by the European Union. At the same time, we have a lot of interesting times ahead with the new mobility package that has been approved. And so we are very pleased today to welcome Ines Maillard, Policy Officer from the Road Transport Unit from DG Move in the European Commission, who will in the second part of this webinar present the details of the mobility package that a lot of you have been asking us about. In the first part of this webinar, we will discuss the EU parking standard. My name is Frederick Maas, by the way. I'm replacing Christy Ha, who was supposed to animate this webinar and who you have been in touch with. Unfortunately, she was taken ill today, so we wish Christy all the best. And also, Dick Penas is here for any questions you might have on ESPORG if necessary. So what are we going to look at today? We will be talking about the outline. The outline of the presentation is about who we are, the mission, the goals, and the benefits of being an ESPORG member. The EU parking standard, talking about the different levels in terms of security and in terms of service. The question is on the auditors. How is this finally audited? How can I get my truck parking audited? And then Ms. Mayar is going to explain to us the details of the mobility package, especially in terms of the driving and rest times, the rules on the tachographs, the posting of drivers, and new rules on the, or amendments to the rules on cabotage. So with that being said, if we look at the first part of the presentation, the European Secure Parking Organization was founded in 2010, for those who don't know it. We strive to build a network of safe, secure, and connected truck parkings across the EU, with over 70 members in various member states. So our objective was always to develop this topic that was early on was a fringe topic and now gains more and more traction. So we offer our members support at local and EU level, provide advice and assistance for the setup and the development of truck parking. Of course, we now have a breadth of experience also with the operation of parkings. So that's also one of the ideas, to have a European association, to have a fruitful discussion across national borders to see what others have done. Finally, of course, we see ourselves as an integrator for technology, and also we inform you about funding opportunities such as the CEF program of the European Union, but there are also other potential incentives at national level, so we always try to inform as much as we can on all these opportunities. Our aim is to be a facilitator, to create and spread know-how for the market, to provide guidance during the construction phase. This is always the critical phase where you really get into gear of new secure parking areas, or why not on the upgrade of existing parking areas that you want to make secure. And finally, we want to be a one-stop shop for the owners of secure truck parkings. So our objective is really to add value to the entire discussion. The way we see it, the new EU parking standard is a great opportunity. Now there is a European standard allowing for parking areas to be aligned on what to expect in the next years. So it provides security to investors, and it provides a certain security on the market outlook. So what we try and do, we were involved a lot in the setup. We will talk about it more in the formulation of an EU study on this new EU parking standard, and a lot of information such as surveys, what do drivers want, what do transport companies want. So we've been working on this on your behalf. We of course also have a lot of marketing solutions in fairs and conferences, and we have a lot of interesting tools, including our magazine, in which we feature parking areas and other participants. We have a network approach. So what we want to build is a high quality network with a lot of interesting added value for you. So what we can do in terms of best practice is really spread the word on what has been done in other parts of Europe, for you to be aware, to take into account what we're doing, what other members have been doing, and not to reinvent the wheel. So please, in the future, on any questions on the implementation of the EU parking standard, on potential business development, construction implementation, standardization issues, ESPORG is your contact point. And also, when we don't know, we are honest enough to say we have to ask the people who know, but we can promise you we will get you in touch with these people. So, talking about the EU parking standard, if we look at the standard, it is divided into two parts. First, we have a security part, and then we have a service part. So on the security part, we have developed quite a comprehensive list of features that we will go through in the next slides. On the service part, we have a mandatory set of basic services that a parking must fulfill in order to receive a classification of security. So security, you are either bronze, silver, gold, or platinum, one of these four, according to a set of criteria that you have to fulfill. But in order to be classified under any of these security levels, you must comply with a basic set of service features. So you always have to get the services right, and then we can talk about security. Are you bronze, silver, gold, or platinum? Just one word of caution, we had a lot of discussions. Being a bronze parking area doesn't mean that you're not a good parking area. It also doesn't mean that you're not a secure parking area. The decision has to be made based on a lot of factors, the regional crime rate, what is the reason for you to have a security level. So just in the whole discussion, it is about getting reliable information out of the system. So the reason why the parking is classified is to give the parking the opportunity to tell the world what their features in terms of security are, and also in terms of services. So let's start with the service specifications we were just talking about. As a background, why are we talking about service? Because in the EU study that was funded by the European Commission, you see the results on the screen here. We had the need of drivers for personal hygiene, for food services, at least basic food services, for basic means of communication. A lot of them are far away from home. For safety on the parking area. There was a need to get multilingual information, at least in the common languages. Don't forget that a lot of drivers we found are not necessarily multilingual, and they really struggle. So if they get to a secure parking, they need a place where they could at least be understood. And then there's also been the need expressed for other services that they would like to have basic equipment for drivers, for example. So based on that, mandatory service requirements have been formulated. And the basic requirements are basically toilets for men and women are available and working. Showers for men and women are available and working. So it's men and women. So there must be separate ones. Then these facilities must be maintained. Clear signs that promote safe traffic, so this is about safety, are available at the truck parking area. Emergency contacts must be displayed at the truck parking area. Snacks and drinks are available for purchase 24/7, so that can be through a vending machine or through other possibilities. You don't have to have a restaurant. That's not a mandatory obligation, but of course you can have one. It's just important for a driver that they are able to refresh themselves, even if, of course, don't forget that in this study we had the entire supply chain represented, from hauliers to shippers to drivers. We know that the drivers have drinks and food on board, but still there is a clear need to have something available at the parking area. An internet connection possibility. So Wi-Fi is the preferred means of realizing this. And then, of course, some basic services like an electricity plug for your personal use, for your computer, your shaver, or whatever, if you are outside the truck for some moments. Here you have some examples, some pictures you can see. This is from a Repsol, a parking area in Spain. You can see an example for a restaurant facility, some hygiene possibility with toilets. Here you see from the Spanish company On Turtle, you have laundry facilities. So these are, laundry, for example, is an optional service, but of course one that we always encourage you to install if you see in your market surveys that the drivers are keen on this. So this is about the basic services. Now, of course, we have a lot of additional optional services that are also listed in the parking standard, and that will also be audited by the auditor. So the auditor will look at the optional services and they will write it down in your report. So that is something you can use towards the market as well, but it is not mandatory. Now, when we talk about the technical specifications for security, the logic is that we have 4 levels: bronze, silver, gold, and platinum, which build on one another. So everything that we show here for the bronze level will either be applicable also for the 3 other levels, or will be replaced if there is a more demanding criterion on the same topic. The security is divided into the security of the perimeter of the parking. So what is around the parking, the protection, the parking area itself, the entry and exit situation, and anything that is related to procedures. So here you see the bronze level obligation, where we will not go through everything here, but if we look at the situation B1, for example, the criterion B1, we are talking about a visual deterrent to recognize the secure parking area. So it can be a line on the ground and some signage indicating, please, this is a protected area, do not enter. We have throughout the standard obligations in terms of lighting and camera systems that are increasingly demanding. So here, for example, on the perimeter, you have an obligation to have lighting at 15 lux, which is a lower number of lighting. And you have in the entry and exit situation obligations for a good image quality on CCTV. There is a handbook for technical specifications where, for example, this criterion, what does good image quality mean, is defined. If we look at the next slide, you see this here. You see the CCTV specifications. So how to read the standard when we talk about it is, well, if you want to build a new truck parking, you can show the standard to your technical advisors, to your architects, to the road engineers. ESPORG can, of course, also give you some guidance if you want. And these are the specifications that they will have to comply with. As in any standard, there is room for a certain freedom on how you implement it, but at the end of the day, you will have an auditor coming, a third-party auditor that will check the parking area, and that will assess if you have met the criteria or not. If we go to the silver level, we're talking about bronze plus. You remember we just had criterion B1, where we had a visual deterrent. Now at the silver level, on the perimeter, we have a physical deterrent. The physical deterrent could be a ditch, could be rocks, could be a smaller fence, but it is physical. So there is already a change. You see, if you remember, we had 15 lux in the criterion B2. Now we have 20 lux. So you see here, there's an increase in requirements. So that means it is also more onerous and more costly to deploy this parking area. And as an explanation, you see here, for example, in the entry exit, you have barriers. Keep it in mind, we're talking about barriers without any further specification. We'll come back to that. So you see the criteria on security are measurable and quantifiable and quite easy to check for an auditor. Also for the silver level, we have CCTV specifications, where you see that here, what we also look for, or the standard looks for, is a certain routine check. So make sure that your CCTV system is working. So these are some examples. There is no certified bronze or silver parking right now under the EU parking standard. We will talk about certification later, but these are a few where we think, hey, these are some interesting examples that could go in this direction. You see on the left side, you see an example of a typical vending machine setup that would be fine with the requirement of having food and beverages. If we look at the gold level, so this is bronze plus silver plus. Now you see things get a bit more demanding. We have on the perimeter a situation where basically criterion G1, we need a fence or any other means that would be 1.80 meter high consistently. So probably it was the fence in most cases. We have a more demanding lighting situation. We have CCTV covering the entire perimeter. And we have, regarding the entry and exit situation, a barrier with over and under climbing protection. So remember, in silver, we had a normal barrier. Here we have a barrier with over under climbing protection, and we have a license plate recognition. So we get closer to knowing who is on my parking because I have a license plate recognition. I can at that time and later monitor that. We also have more demanding procedures here. So we have security staff must be qualified. We have alarm response procedures. And we have the famous criterion G15, which basically will say that when your parking will be connected with the entire transport system, you will be in a position to inform the world how many parking places are still available at your parking area. And imagine the possibilities this will open in the future. So this is something where you will have to have a counting system to be able to tell public authorities via an interface how many parking areas are available. Also here we have more demanding CCTV specifications. So you see with each level, the lighting and the camera capacity gets more demanding. And we have the routine checks are even more regular. So really make sure the systems are working. So here we have a couple of parking areas across the EU that are certified gold. The one that you can see here is based in Kalken in Belgium, operated by the company Total. Another one that you can see here is operated by the company Autopistas in Spain. We also have an example from Romania of a gold parking that is based near Arad at the Hungarian border. We also have a very a dedicated website for some of these examples that is dealing with the results of the study. And we also have it available on our website of ESPORG, where you can see videos of these parkings and more pictures. So we highly encourage you to just go there or look at the videos and get some inspiration from these parking areas. Here we have one from On Turtle, operating out of Barcelona at the near the French border. This parking area, you see an aerial picture as well, and here you can see that gold is already at a higher level of security. Now we get to the top, the platinum level, which is bronze plus, silver plus, and gold plus. So far, there is no parking area at platinum level, but some have expressed interest. However, you can see here that you have criterion P4. The license plate must match the ticket. So you must be able to really trace the truck that is on your parking area. And they cannot leave without having two criteria met at the same time, license plate and ticket, so you can easily identify the truck. And the costly item will be the staff procedures, so that you have to have a 24/7, here it's on the parking area, a 24/7 video controlled all manned site, which is the cost driver. On the other hand, it was clearly expressed by the transport community, by the shippers and the transport companies. If we go for such a level as platinum, we want a full security package. We want a 4 NOx. So this is what it does. And maybe one interesting feature, criterion P12, if there is a pre-booking system looking into the future, it should be real time. So that is the dream about this high security parking, that you would be able to either through the dispatcher or the driver to book your parking real time, as you do now in city parking and other areas right now. So platinum level, of course, the CCTV obligations are quite high. And here you can see one that is in Denmark. It's a plan, it's a concept, and they want to go for that level of platinum. We wish good success. We also know that some parking areas across Europe, there are maybe a few in France and Germany who want to go for that level. We have to see. It will have to be certified, and then we can say something about it. But we encourage our members, of course, who are interested in this to go for that. A short remark. There's a possibility, if you have been audited under the former standard supported by the EU, the label standard, there is a procedure in place under which a transitional audit can be granted. But time is running for this. So if you want to have a transitional audit, please get in touch with us, and we will inform you what it means. And then the auditors that will audit you will apply a simplified regime, because they can rely on the old label audit, and we'll just have to ask supplemental questions and check supplemental items. So who are these auditors we've been talking about a lot now? The auditors, this is a system built with the support of the EU by the transport industry. So this is not something ESPORG, of course, we have a logo here because we support this whole thing, this whole ecosystem. But the auditors are totally independent third parties that have to be part of an auditing entity. The auditing entity has to meet ISO 17021 certification level. That's quite a demanding level. So we're talking about the typical audit companies that you know. I will not say any name. You can find them in the database that has been created to that effect. If you have doubts on that, please contact us. We will give you all the information where you can find these auditors. There is a possibility for the auditing companies that might listen to this webinar. If you want to get some more information, we can make the contact with the EU Parking Academy. But at the end of the day, we're talking about typical audit companies, auditors. I'm getting a question here. Will the slides be available? Of course, we will make them available afterwards. And also the whole presentation, for those who tuned in late, the whole presentation will be recorded and also available. With the exception of a small audio bug in the beginning, you will also be able to hear all the audio. So this is about the auditing procedure. So please, just to make it sure, ESPORG is not auditing parking areas. We've gotten a lot of questions. It's independent third-party auditors, and that's the way to guarantee quality as well. Finally, on the ESPORG view of the EU parking standard, what we can say is that the next CEF funding call, so there is funding from the EU, as we said before, will be in line with the EU parking standard, as at least we hope. We are advocating this in the expert group in which ESPORG is also represented, that we say it would be great to have the EU parking standard as an even stronger presence in the EU funding scene. And you can already see that the 2019 CEF call, in which a total of 11 parking projects were awarded overall. We are very proud that 8 are ESPORG members or affiliates. That in this CEF call, you already have a very clear reference to the EU parking standard. So as we understand it, these 11 parking projects that won will at the end of the day be audited according to the EU parking standard. And we think this is a great result already for the entire supply chain and transport industry. When we talk about parking projects, these are different parking areas. So it's not like there are 11 parking areas. There's 11 projects, but with a lot of parking areas in them, both new and upgraded ones. So also on that, stay tuned. We're sure that at least there might be some opportunities in the future as well. So keep an open eye out for these funding opportunities that the EU offers. And with that, we are happy to close the first part of the presentation on the EU parking standard and to hand over to Ms. Ines Maillard from DG Move to give you some information on the mobility package, which is certainly a hot topic.
Hello, everyone. So, as mentioned earlier, my name is Ines Maillard. I work at the European Commission in the Road Transport Unit. And today I will give you a small presentation about what is the Mobility Package 1 to help you understand the new provisions that are already in place or will be applicable very soon. So what is Mobility Package 1? So it's a major reform of the EU road transport sector, and it has several aims, which are to ensure fair competition between transport undertakings, improve the working conditions of drivers, and we are doing this by focusing on three main pillars. So driving and rest times, then the lex specialis on busing of drivers in road transport sector, and the rules on market access. I will start by presenting the rules on driving and rest times, and maybe let me also start by making a transition to what has been said in the first part, by saying that one of the main provisions that was introduced in that context was also the possibility for the European Commission to adopt what we call a delegated act to enshrine the safe and secure parking standards that were developed in the study run by the Commission in cooperation with many stakeholders, including ESPORG, to make those standards enshrined in EU legislation. So the work is in progress on this. We will have a first meeting and a first draft in end of November, and we hope to be able to adopt the standard in 2021, which means that those standards that will be really mainly based on the standards that were just described in the first part, will be in the legislation and will be the ones that you have to respect to also get the funding from the CEF, Connecting Europe facility. Also wanted to say that it is crystal clear that the development of safe and secure parkings in the EU will remain a priority under the next safe calls, the financial calls. So that was a little forward, and now we can move on the driving and rest time. So here you have a little overview of the maximum driving times. Here we didn't see any changes with the new legislation. It's just a quick recap for you to understand that this hasn't changed. So there's still a maximum duration of a day driving time of 9 hours. In a week, the driver cannot drive more than maximum 56 hours, and you need to have a maximum average of 90 hours over 2 weeks. Here on the weekly rest periods, we see more changes, not in the maximum limits of what is a reduced weekly rest. It's still 24 hours, and a normal weekly rest is still 45 hours. But an important change is that the 45-hour rest, the regular weekly rest, must be taken in a suitable accommodation and obviously outside of a vehicle. So it must be taken in a gender-friendly and suitable accommodation, as the law says. And in the daily rest periods, here again, we don't have many changes, but this means that we don't have changes at all, sorry. So it means that the driver needs to take at least an 11-hour daily rest every 24 hours. So what are the key changes? As I said, now the regular weekly rest period must be taken outside of the cabin in a suitable accommodation. There is also a new provision to allow the driver to return home or to the employer operational center at regular intervals. It can be 3 weeks if the driver takes 2 consecutive reduced weekly rest, or 4 weeks if he takes a normal regime of weekly rest. Here there's the mention of a vehicle that must return every 8 weeks, but I will talk about this in the part on the market access where it belongs more. So when do this rule apply? So they already apply since the 20 August 2020. So what the changes I've just talked about the regular return home of a driver and the ban to take the weekly rest in the regular weekly rest in the cabin. Then, in the context of driving and rest time and the tool to control this, the tachograph, there are also new provisions to see soon on the market a new generation of tachograph, the so-called smart tachograph version 2. What does this new tachograph will do? It will allow the automatic recording of border crossings. It will allow for the driver to record loading and unloadings, and it will also indicate if the vehicle is used for the carriage of goods or passengers. It will be a progressive phase-in, including for LCVs, because LCVs on 1st of July 2026 will be subject to the same rules on driving and rest time that you can find in Regulation 561 of 2006. Here you have a timeline of the tachograph. I think it can be a bit difficult because there are several steps, but I think it's very straightforward. The logic is that you really start retrofitting the oldest generation of tachograph, so analog and digital tachograph, and progressively you also retrofit the smart tachograph version 1, which is the latest version we have today. And at the end, you also introduce it for LCVs on the 1st of June 2026, so operators have time to adapt. So here you can see that for some steps, it's written around August 2023. So for the new vehicles, and around 2025 for the retrofitting of smart tachograph version 1. It's because those deadlines in the legislation, they are based on the adoption of a piece of legislation in EU law we call Implemented Act on the technical specification. So it will detail all the specifications that the new tachograph must have, and this hasn't been adopted yet. So that's why we have tried to provide you with an average, but it can be a bit earlier. Okay. So here, it actually, the tachograph have already entered into force, and like the provision and the timing is progressing. So now we move to the clear rules on posting of work of drivers in road transport. Driver should, so the definition is all about the concept of bilateral transport operations, which are exempted from posting rules. So the legislation clearly defines what is a bilateral transport operation. I will read it because it's important that the definition is 100% clear. So a bilateral operation is the movement of goods based on a transport contract from the member state of establishment to another member state or to a third country, or from another member state or a third country to the member state of establishment. It's really the key concept you should keep in mind. So this is for the respect of goods, and on the slide you can also have for passengers if you want to read. And then the posting module is really based on this. You have the differentiation of operation, and bilateral operation are not a situation of posting. Transit is not posting. You have a so-called cross-trade operation, which are not an operation where you leave from the member state of establishment or you go to the state of establishment. Here it's not a posting situation, but there are some exceptions if the driver does loading or unloading in the member state he crosses, and the cabotage is always a posting situation. There will be new obligations for the companies to fill in posting declaration. I will not go into details, but all the details will have to be filled in on this slide. It will be via the IMI system. So it's a system that is provided by the European Commission and by which the transport undertaking will be able to enter the data we've just seen and send this posting declaration to the host member state. And in that sense, if the host member state wants to check that the operator paid the posted driver the remuneration of the host member state for some operation, the authority can contact directly the undertaking. Those rules will apply from the 2nd of February 2022. And finally, I will finish with a new cabotage rule when there will be a new provision which we call a cooling off periods to avoid systematic cabotage. So after having done the 3 cabotage operation within 7 days, the vehicle will not be able to perform new cabotage in the same member state with the same vehicles. So there will be also enhanced criteria for establishment to fight letterbox companies and enhanced cooperation for national authorities to do that. But I will not enter into details now, and I'm available really if you have any questions on that. So those new rules will apply from the 21st of February 2022. And now I will give back the floor to ESPORG for a final word.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Maya. Looking into the future, what ESPORG focuses on is, of course, the implementation of the EU parking standard. But equally, the topics at hand with the European Green Deal and with the movement of the market towards sustainability, the movement towards more interconnectedness with intelligent transport system. So the communication of the parking as a piece of infrastructure to other infrastructure and to vehicles, and any possibility of connectivity also across different transport modes. So with this being said, we will take a little bit of time, if you want, to answer your questions that you have been posting in the question box. We will encourage, please, if you have questions, ask them now in either in the question box so we can answer them, and or please feel free to follow up with us afterwards. I think that looking at them, I will first give the floor to Ms. Maillard and then take over again, depending on the type of question.
Thank you. So the questions are being opened now. So one of them is, what's about making the 45-hour normal rest, regular rest at secured and certified parkings? So in that case, what is clear from the legislation is that the driver must be in a suitable accommodation. So if there's a hotel adjacent to the parking area, this is obviously possible. And this is for those who are familiar with legislation. This is in the recital 15 of the legislation, which clearly says that a suitable accommodation may be adjacent to a parking area. So in that case, yeah, it's in the law. And it's true that according to information from ESPORG, some truck parkings actually have already hotels on their at that place. So yes, it's I think happening already. So I'm looking at another question. Yes, so are there any guidelines on what constitute appropriate accommodations in terms of drivers' long rest breaks? So this is obviously a conversation that we had, and should we define this concept? And I think it's important that there's some flexibility left on what is appropriate accommodation. The legislation gives already some criteria, which is gender-friendly accommodation, adequate sleeping, and sanitary facilities. Obviously, it's not extremely detailed, but I think you get the spirit of it, because what the aim of this provision and the insertion of suitable accommodation was to avoid situation where the driver, would have a tent next to the truck and be outside the cabin of the vehicle, but not being in a suitable accommodation. So there's some flexibility as long as obviously you respect the criteria of gender-friendly, adequate sleeping, and sanitary facilities. Okay, we're going through the questions now. So we're looking at this. Okay, so I don't think that's a question, that's a statement. It's actually summarizing what I just said. We have a question for ESPORG, so I'll give you back the floor.
This is a question from Mr. Ton Barton about the lighting levels and DATEX2 connection. That the gold certificates granted meet the requirements of the standard according to the auditors having audited these parking areas. Just as a general remark, as far as we know, the lighting levels have not been a problem at these parking areas. And for the DATEX2 connectivity, since most national installations to collect these data are not available. What is being checked is the ability of the parking area's backend system to provide the information on the dynamic and static obligations under the delegated regulation 885/2013. Sorry.
Okay, back to me for a question about the accommodation of a driver. So the question is, will the employer pay the accommodation and or the parking area of a driver? Here again, the legislation is very clear and says that any cost for accommodation outside the vehicle should be covered by the employer. So your answer to the question is yes. So we're still going through the questions. Okay. So if a driver must take the rest in accommodation, why isn't this a mandatory service requirement? Because there are many, because in our view, we didn't want to impose, you know, a certain way of taking this regular weekly rest, because I think the main objective is also to allow the driver to go home, to take this rest regularly. And then if the driver can take it in several forms of accommodation, if I may say, like a hotel or Airbnb, or without mentioning names. So it's not a mandatory service requirement, also because I think some parkings don't want to invest in it. And they should have the flexibility to choose to do it. I have a question now on the delegated act on secure parking lots. So as I said, we are working on it, and here I want to be very clear that there will be no surprises. Let's say we will really base a lot of our work on what has already been done in the study conducted by the Commission in cooperation with stakeholders, for the reason that there was a wide range of stakeholders consulted. So the safe and secure standards are true to reality and what's needed. So we are currently drafting it to make it a delegated act according to EU law, and we will present a first draft to a group of experts. So a group of experts on 20th of November, and we hope to be able to follow this process and improve it so we can adopt it in 2021.
I can answer.
Okay, there's another question from ESPORG, I see.
This is Frederick again. I will just answer a few of the questions very, very summarily on our experience with the audits. How much does an audit cost? This is something that has to be negotiated with the auditing company. What we can just tell you is that it's not a high cost, in our opinion. We have a question about the functional distance of the restaurant. I suppose you mean the optional service criteria. Yes, there is the auditor will have to assess this just as a rule of thumb. Of course, in our experience, the restaurant must be at a distance where the driver would be able to walk. I mean, it doesn't have to be inside the secure perimeter, of course. Huh? The internet connection is mandatory. Yes, if you look at it, it is mandatory to have access to the internet for the driver via, for example, their smartphone or tablet or whatever they have. So yes, this is an obligation under the EU parking standard, as we read it and as the auditors have said it. A question by Anastasis: what is the mandatory service requirements for the truck cooling? It is an optional service criterion right now in the EU parking standard. There have been some discussions in the expert group about you know, how important it is. That's the status right now. We're just going through the the questions. There are some opinions as well. I don't know if you want to react to them.
Yes, so back to me, there's a question about the new rules for light commercial vehicles. So here you must know that the light commercial vehicles that will be engaged in international transport will be subject to the same rules on driving and rest time from the 1st of July 2026. This also means that they will have to have a smart tachograph installed on both of the vehicle. Here, it's important to really keep in mind that it's only for light commercial vehicles that are engaged in international transport. So this doesn't concern purely national transport. And what is a light commercial vehicle? According to the legislation, it's when the maximal permissible mass of a vehicle, including any trailer or semi-trailer, exceeds 2.5 tons. So we're going through other questions. Will the new EU standard replace all existing standards like TAPA, or are the other standards still relevant? Well, the aim of the Commission is really to create its own standard. It doesn't want to erase other standards. They can obviously continue to exist, but really what we want to do is have a network of safe and secure parkings around the European Union, and which can also receive funding from the European Commission, and which you can find on a single website, so that you have one-stop shop to see what is the nearest parking next to the place I should stop or I pass by, and what is the level, and if you need a certain level of security, that you can find this parking easily. So another question is about when will be the new calls for CEF funding published. This, I don't have this information right now. What I can tell you, and there will be a next one, most probably next year. But I'm in contact with my colleagues from INEA, so it's the agency which is in charge of this funding, and I will seek new information, and we can obviously reply by writing when we have updated information on that. We're looking at a question now. Okay, ESPORG will reply to it.
Okay, just to tackle a few of the remaining questions. Paid parking area, yeah, this is usually when we talk about this type of installation. In most cases, we have a paid parking area, we have reached the time limit, so we don't also want to hold Ismaïa too long. So from my side already, thank you very much for your participation. No question is lost. Even if we have forgotten some, we will answer them. Just be in touch with us, and we will also forward your questions to the European Commission. I just give the word quickly to Ms. Maillard and Mr. Penas.
Okay, thanks a lot for this fruitful discussion and very relevant questions we received. Just wanted to close yet to say and confirm once again that the development of safe and secure parkings is really a top priority for us. Work is ongoing, and in consultation with relevant stakeholders, it's really important that cooperation is here to have something that makes sense and addresses the needs of the undertakings and of the drivers. We're working on this, and obviously the questions will be addressed for those who didn't manage to have an answer today. Thanks a lot.
First of all, I want to thank everybody to attending the webinar. Like we said before, it's the first but not the last. And the only thing, the message that I want to bring is the implementation from the mobility package. There have to be a good communication between all the stakeholders from the total supply chain, like we did until now. And then we can tackle a lot of problems and issues. But we are just so strong as the weakest chain of a cat. So I think that was a message. I want to thank you everybody for attending, and everybody you can find on the website from ESPORG. Have a nice day.